Welcome to the Simple Healthy Life podcast, where our goal is to have real, insightful conversations on topics that we find interesting. So today, Ryan, if you don't mind, I think I'd like to talk about self-image, imagination, manifestation, those three topics.
Mm.
I'm going to pass it over to you to let you start. Pick one of those three topics, and let's see if we can't wrap all three of those together by the end of this conversation for the audience.
Sure. Yeah. So I think these are interesting subjects. It's funny because on the way here we realized that we were reading the same book, which is
Psycho-cybernetics.
Psycho-cybernetics. Yeah. I haven't completed it yet, but clearly I didn't even read the title. Just dove right into it. But yeah, no, it's a pretty solid book so far, and he does talk a lot about this idea of the self-image, and I think a lot of it can be boiled down simply to you're going to rise or fall to the opinion of yourself, and that is probably one of my most favorite quotes when it comes to how we view ourselves, because I think it's really true. I think that if you see yourself in X way is going to manifest. So, if you see yourself as this like angry person, well, you're probably going to be angry, right? And in the book, he makes he draws some good points about how even if you're kind of really consciously guarding, and we've talked a little bit about that, against the anger, so to speak, your subconscious might close the gap for you. It might you might subconsciously be acting as an angry person just because that's how you view yourself. So I wonder, I guess as a personal example, do you have any examples of when you maybe viewed yourself in a particular way, and then your actions, your habits, your behaviors kind of manifested to reaffirm that belief of yourself? Is there anything that you can recall?
Good question. I mean, I know from analyzing and studying and reading and listening that the answer to that question is everything, right? Because, and you said it already, like you rise or fall to the level of your belief in yourself. And I can tell you that, some time for periods I feel low, and I'm feeding into that belief in myself that I can't do it, or that I'm not good enough, or I didn't get it because of this, that, the other thing. And then there's other times when I feel very upbeat, positive, excited, happy, and that time in my life definitely equates to when I'm feeling good about who I am and my ability to accomplish things. And my behavior starts to embody those things. And then I've noticed that I have become some of those things. We talked about on maybe our first podcast, the change that I have taken over in my life in the last few years. And through that process, it's definitely been a change in my own personal self-image. So actually, as I ramble about that, I do have an example.
Yeah.
When I first started teaching breathwork, meditation, really got into it. I was doing it a little bit here and there, but I didn't believe that I knew it. I didn't believe that I knew it well enough. I didn't believe that I had the credentials that other people would have more. I didn't believe that I was the best person to do that. Through this repetitive, keep showing up, keep working at it, keep doing it, keep offering expertise, keep learning, keep sharing, I started to believe. And I don't know whether it's because in my head now I know I have hundreds of hours doing it and I know that I have the experience, so now I believe, or did I believe as I was building the experience?
Mm.
Either way, I now know that I am able to do it. I do have my self-image of me, and not to sound cocky or conceited, because I think that's another. We talked a little bit
Mm.
about the self-image change, but I can do it. I know I can
Right.
because that's who I am.
Right.
But it wasn't who I was in my own head 3 years ago. Even though I had many of the same tools, many of the same skills, much of the same knowledge.
Right. So yeah, we had talked a little bit about imposter syndrome, and this topic came up of how
That's
you
right.
were talking about that switch from corporate America to mindfulness meditation teacher coach was a challenging one. And yeah, I mean, I think it's a perfect example. How do you and it's a good distinction. Like, had you gotten some experience under your belt, and then you were kind of like able to bolster that self image of being a mindfulness meditation coach teacher? Was it that helped you believe in the self image, or was it just the fact that you decided, just decided that that's what you were? I almost use that example as I talk with certain clients, depending on the conversation, I suppose. But the example of someone picks up a guitar and they know a couple chords and maybe they know a couple songs, but then you ask this person, "Well, are you a musician?" And they're like, "No, no, no. I just play a couple chords." Or, play. Well, why not? I mean, this is a perfect example of self-image, right? You're why not say you're a musician? Because you are, and maybe with that belief and change in yourself, maybe then you become a little bit more sure of your musical capabilities, and then maybe there's more music in your life, and maybe you take guitar a little bit more seriously, and maybe that's only positives as opposed to being the version of yourself who you think you are, plus also you play guitar a little bit.
You said something in there that really stuck with me, and it's something I picked out. No, I'm just. Right? Do you do jujitsu? No, I just every once in a while. Do you do this? No, I'm just. Are you this? No, I'm just. That's like a telling you that you have the self-image of yourself that isn't in alignment with your goal.
Right.
Right? If you and to answer your question, I did start to. First of all, I got a lot of good feedback, which was super important to me. That's definitely something that a way that I learn. But secondly, I did start to imagine what it would be like. I started to use my imagination on purpose, and I would sit down and I would do some of my meditations, and I would picture myself speaking to a group, guiding a group, helping a group. I was always sitting cross-legged, but which I still can't do, which is a riot. So maybe someday. But legit, I would do some of my meditations and I would visualize and I would imagine and go over and over again in my mind. And that did help me transition into who I am now. And I believe it's still helping me transition to who I'm becoming.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think your self-image, like how you view yourself, I mean, is a little bit of imagination there too. And it's so funny that we're talking about this today, because today one of the first clients that I was talking to, they told me, "Well, I can't change. I can't get better because I'm broken." And legit verbatim, I'm broken. And what do you mean by that? And they're saying, "Well, this happened and that happened, and I have all these people in my life who none of them had cared. None of them were with me when I was really down, et cetera, et cetera. Here's all the reasons. This stranger said that I am different, blah, 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 blah,
Was there
blah."
a stranger in there?
I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious
Yeah.
if they went that far.
Yeah, no, they said that this stranger noticed something about me, you know, I found it interesting. It's like these, you know, this person is not broken, but has had a rough go at it. And I think they now look for any excuse to reaffirm some of that belief, right? It was like I was arguing with this person, or they were arguing with me rather, about why they're broken. They were like really trying to state their case. They were defending it actually. They really, and I'm like telling them, no, you're not broken. Like you're pretty normal for as far as I talked to a lot of different people. You seem to be pretty normal to me. um, but yeah, any way that they could, it was like, here's my case. Here is my identity, and I need you to accept that. And I think it was a little distressing for them because I wasn't accepting it. I wasn't accepting how they viewed themselves, and I think it was a productive conversation overall. But it kind of really just boiled down to, if you view yourself as broken, well, guess what's going to manifest? Guess what's going to come through? Any excuse you get, any chance the subconscious brain has to reaffirm that belief, it's coming through. Whether that's you're trying to achieve a goal, well, you slip a little bit, and that's because I'm broken, or someone doesn't respond in the nicest, kindest way. Oh, well, that's because I'm broken and I don't deserve friends or whatever, as opposed to, well, maybe this person just didn't respond in the way because they got their own stuff going on. Maybe, maybe they got a life of their own that's also stressful and anxiety provoking. And
Maybe they're trying to figure out if they're broken.
well, I mean, that's, it's truly how a lot of these things work. And, I, of course, as I'm talking with people, a lot of it is just like, we're walking them through change and walking them through like certain goals, but almost all the time it boils down to, well, how do you view yourself, and why do you feel that you can't make the change? And a lot of the time it is because they feel they're broken or inadequate or whatever it might be.
I would say almost all the time that's what it
Mhm.
is. You're like, you can't we're good at trapping ourselves, but you can't trick yourself. You have to believe.
Mm.
And if you really look deeply at what you do believe, you'll find that you believe exactly who you are today. You believe that you are getting what you deserve, whatever that is, whether it's good, bad, indifferent. And changing that self-image is very, very difficult. The thought of changing that self-image is super scary because they're afraid that they can't do it.
Mm.
They're afraid. Everybody would say, I don't want to be broken. I'm going to close my eyes and say, I don't want to be broken. Done. I'm not broken. Maybe that's a good start, right? But now, what does it look like? What do you do? How do you act? How do you walk? Who do you stand around? Who are you around? Start to picture that in your mind. What happens when you're not broken? Good relationships start to happen. Look for those. Find them. What happens when you're not broken? Your body starts to work better. You feel better. Look for that. Find it. Right? And start to change, flip the script. Look for that thing when you're not broken. Look for that new word to start with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The brain doesn't seem to work in negative super well. Like,
No,
I'm
I
not
don't think
broken.
so
It's
either.
like, I'll show you broken.
I agree with that.
But I am respected, right? Like if that's the opinion you hold of yourself, well, you're gonna find ways to affirm that. And
well said.
I don't think it's necessarily a complex thing to do, but it is challenging. And so it is kind of simple to try and say to yourself, well, I am respected, and maybe you affirm yourself, and maybe every chance you get or through the course of that change, you kind of tell yourself, I'm respected, and you do whatever it is you can do to bolster that in some way. But there's going to be someone who comes around and says, you're not respected, you're arrogant.
Yeah.
They're
going to come out. And they're going to challenge your self-image.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just put it up and have it be a front. You gotta own it.
Right.
You got to be able to say, no, I'm not. And I appreciate your opinion on it.
Right.
So I said something in jest, but the more I keep reading about the imagination, And, all these famous people, all Walt Disney, right? The Imagineers, right? This dude took imagination to the nth degree. Albert Einstein talks about it's not just intelligence and the knowledge you have, but also your ability to imagine, right? The imagination, this guy, the book that we're reading, right? He talks about all of these great builders creating things through their imagination. But somehow we reserve that for little kids. And then if you want to flip the script and just use a different word, you've used it a couple times. It's an interesting word to me, manifestation. We've taken that word and made it taboo.
Right.
It's like the two ways that you can use to purposefully, intentionally improve your self-image. We've taken and we've said, that's just for little kids and that's not for you.
Mm-hmm.
What a weird thing.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, I do use the word manifest a lot, even as I'm talking with clients. It's because it becomes so real to me. I see it so often. You have a specific thought, or you hold this specific self-image. We were just talking about like being broken, and then how the actions and behaviors of the person is gonna manifest into being broken. To me, it's so clear. I have these like nice, real, deep conversations with people, and then I see them across a period of time, and yeah, it just so happens that they're manifesting a lot of stuff, and I don't know if I necessarily believe in the whole like think of $1 million dropping on your doorstep and there it is, but I mean if you maybe imagine yourself in a specific scenario and you get really detailed about it and maybe you bring it to mind often, I could see how some of the actions and behaviors you then take are slow but steady steps towards that goal. I really truly think that's the case. I mean, I see it so blatantly obvious in the opposite direction, in like the negative manifestation, then it must be true. And in the positive, if you can manifest negative outcomes, you certainly should be able to manifest positive outcomes, right?
Absolutely. You absolutely can. And I agree. I'm not telling you, I'm not saying anything about, saying I want $1 million and having it come the next day. But you start to picture what it looks like to have $1 million, what you would be like, the way you would live, the way things would be. And maybe you start to work harder.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you start to put yourself in, maybe you start to research how to get $1 million. Maybe it's a catalyst for you, right? To move that direction all the time, working on the same thing, keeping that visualization, keeping that imagination, keeping that manifestation, and keeping that self-image that you are somebody that has the ability to go and get $1 million. I mean, let's say it doesn't work. Was there a waste? What was the opposite? You would just rule it out. Okay, I'm not that person, can't do it. Cool, done. And then it never happens, right? What is that saying? If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Right.
There's another example where imagination, our brain's ability to manifest, people know it. We all have so many options, so many quotes, and so many different ways that it's out there. But for some reason, we have this stigma around it that says, not real, can't do it. Or maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just the way that I don't want to say brought up, but maybe it's just the way it's gone in my own head when I was younger.
Like, I mean, like you viewed yourself as like negative and incapable.
For sure.
Where do you think that came from?
Great question. Well, I would say first, it started more for me like was if everything was going right, I would say to myself like, well, there's a yin and a yang here. Everything's going to have to go wrong eventually. So I wouldn't let my highs be high in order to hopefully mitigate my lows being low. Although now that I'm older, I tell you that didn't work. Or if it did, it would have been really low. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, I'm not sure exactly where that came from, but I guess I'm definitely living proof that you can decide and then change your own self-image. The funny thing is, like, if I was to tell this story right now, my wife's going to listen to it. She's going to be like, 3 years ago, you knew exactly what you were doing.
Mm.
You like, I listened to you, teach meditations, and they were awesome.
Right.
But for some reason in my head, I wasn't a meditation teacher yet.
Mm. Mm. Right. And then what do you do if you have this goal to be a meditation teacher, and you truly believe that you're not cut out for it? What then do you do at the first sight of failure? You probably quit. So there must have been, you must have cultivated some inkling of a positive self-image in that regard.
Yeah, I was a coach, right? So I coached a lot of kids. I coached a lot of fitness. I coached a lot of physical, and I coached a lot of mental because of the physical, right? Helping people push past their plateaus, helping people show up, helping people do these certain things, which is why now that I'm talking about it, looking back, like it was a very, very logical step to go coach the brain. But I wasn't there.
Right.
I truly wasn't there.
Right.
I'm glad I am now.
Yeah, no, definitely. You certainly are. Yeah, it is interesting because I don't think we want to I don't think we want to view ourselves as something we believe we're not, because it feels like a lie.
Yeah.
This is what I'll hear too when I suggest people do some affirmations. They're like, "Well, Ryan, that's a lie. I don't believe in that." Well, I mean, it's not really a lie. Just as it's calling the person who plays guitar a liar because they then call themselves a musician. Is that a lie, or is it just not in its full manifestation, right? Like, are they really just like a musician, but they're not like the epitome of a musician, but they might still be one. And so, yeah, I think there's degrees, and we don't necessarily want to lie to ourselves, but recognizing, how you view yourself is exactly how you're going to act. If you view yourself as a kind person, when you get presented with opportunities to be kind, it's going to feel wrong to act otherwise. And maybe vice versa on the opposite side. Again, going back to if you view yourself as an angry person, being angry and blowing up at people is gonna be okay. It's gonna feel okay, even though it's reaffirming something that's really kind of a negative self-image.
Right.
So then, when you bring up kind of this idea of like imagining something, it makes me think about there's a study that they did, and I don't remember the exact details of who, what, when, and where, but what they did is they took two groups of people, and one group of people, actually both groups of people, they showed this like simple piano melody, and they said, here's a simple piano melody, play it once or twice while you're in the lab or wherever they did this. And then they said, this group of people, we're going to send you back with a keyboard. I want you to practice this every day. And then the other group of people, you don't get a keyboard, practice this in your head, and then we'll reconvene. And when they reconvened, shockingly enough, the people who actually physically practice on the piano were just as good as the people who practiced in their mind at performing that melody. Or I probably should say that the other way, the people who envisioned themselves playing this melody were actually just as good as if they had practiced the melody physically. And that to me seems, because I have, I am a musician. I've
Well said.
Yeah. I'm versed in some of that, and I know that I naturally kind of envision myself playing music at times, and it does feel very real. Like, it does feel like practice, when you're so like in tune with it. And so it's not necessarily surprising to me, but I think it might be, it outlines the point really well, as like how we imagine things and how we visualize, and maybe improving the depth of that visualization can really lead to some very tangible physical results.
Let's just go this deep. The fact that we can imagine must lead us to something, right? There's a reason that we can do it. Do we perceive that lower animals can do it? Are they out imagining what it's like to live in Hawaii? Doesn't seem like it. And that's what March says. That's how you know you're a creator, because you can, because you have access to it. So I think we've talked a good amount about self-image, and I think we've covered it. Any last points you want to bring up or make?
Yeah, just in summary, how you view yourself is truly important to how you live your life. And ultimately, we want to view ourselves in more of a positive light, so that when the opportunities come, we can then express that positivity, express that creation, rather than the opposite, viewing ourselves in a negative light and viewing ourselves with predominantly negative characteristics, because otherwise we're going to be manifesting the destruction of our life in that way too. So yeah, I appreciate how you said that we are creators in that sense, and yeah, I think there's a lot of evidence to support that as well. So yeah, this has been a great talk, MJ, and I look forward to the next one. And for all of our listeners and viewers, you can find us now on all or most
Woohoo!
most
Oh,
most
oh,
most podcast platforms.
Still happy about that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
All right, catch you next time.